We need a second to reconvene.
I'll make that second.
To reconvene, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colleen Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy, Kathy Pucci.
Yes. And I would like to thank those who stayed and our administrative staff for their patience. We had an awful lot of information thrown at us on some things that we have to make decisions on this evening. So thank you very much for your patience. Okay, we'll move on to reports of committees, commissions, and boards. And we'll begin with, I'll give the Finance Committee report. We did meet earlier this evening at 6:30, and we did recommend approval for everything on our agenda this evening except resolution 13-5, and that was relating to labor negotiations, and that was, we did not take a position on that because we needed to go into executive session to get more information. Next, we'll have recreation, which is Mr. Tansky.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. The basketball courts have been closed due to safety concerns. I would like to ask Mr. Don Peening, can you give us an update on the status of the basketball courts behind City Hall and when they may be reopening?
We expect this new sport court to be in probably mid-July. And right now, we can't open them because the baskets are leaning, and the sport court itself, there's a lot of tiles missing. And we're trying to just keep safety.
So we're looking about July?
Mid-July, hopefully.
Okay. The swimming pool at the rec center was in need of a few repairs. Can you give us an update on those repairs? And will there be any delays in opening the pool, which I know there has been, and I believe there was a tile issue?
Well, first off, we went to drain the pool, and one of the valves we could not open, so we had to have a plumber come out. The valve was 25 years old. We had to have the valve replaced. We replaced the valve, and then we were power washing the bottom, and one of the lane tiles, a few pieces of the tile ripped up. So we had to have those replaced, and it takes anywhere from 17 to 21 days for the grout to cure.
When are we looking reopening it?
I'm hoping we can start filling this weekend, and sometime early next week, we hope to get it up and running.
Okay. And what is the status of the spray pad? What's going on with that?
That I'm not aware of. If you're going to ask either Mr. Verber or Ms. McGinty.
Mr. Verba?
We've still got to discuss a few things. We're probably looking to give council for the next meeting a few different options, which way we can go. One of them being to go out to bid again, but we'll have more information at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Also, the status of the exercise weight room, where are we at with that?
Let me see. We're looking probably mid-July. The sound panels are up, the mirrors are up, the painting is done, the flooring is coming Friday, and the big ass fan is going to be installed on Thursday.
Okay, very good. So when are we looking to get this thing up and running?
Probably end of June,
End of June?
early July, yeah.
That concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Council President. The Board of Zoning Code Appeals held a special meeting on Thursday, May 30th, 2013, in which the board decided to grant a 37-foot variance to install a fence in the front yard to enclose the required children's play area for the Loving Cup Academy located at 4476 Ridge Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Planning Commission, Mrs. Katie Gallagher.
Thank you. The Planning Commission met June 6th and passed a request from Super Sign Guys to install a wall-mounted sign for Vision Works at 4762 Ridge Road. That's where Dress Barn is located right now. A request from Loving Cups Kids Academy to install a wall-mounted and freestanding sign at 4476 Ridge Road. And passed a request by Visconti Companies Ltd. for a conditional use for a proposed 45,000 square foot fitness center to be located at the southwest corner of I-480 and Tiedemann Road between Max and Irma's at Key Bank. This is going to be an LA Fitness, and it's subject to council's approval. This piece of property is permit parcel 433-09007, and also reaffirmed an approval from November 1st, 2007 for a site approval to co-locate an existing Verizon telecommunications tower at 6650 Bidoff Road. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to council reports, and this evening we begin with Mr. DeMarco.
Okay, if you were either in attendance at our last council meeting or had the pleasure of watching it on TV, it seems that I have made several people uncomfortable with questions or issues that previously have not been asked of them, specifically the mayor and some of his administration, also a fellow council member. I believe people should be held accountable for their particular area of expertise. Maybe this is something that these folks are not used to. Some have responded as though my comments were personally driven to demean or belittle them. Clearly, they were not. Part of the responsibility that comes with being a public servant is being questioned or challenged by residents, and also about how we vote on various issues. As individuals, we must have the ability to stand behind our vote and explain why if necessary. If certain people cannot assume this responsibility, then maybe this work is not for them. As has been typical, the responses to date from the mayor and the economic development director regarding their activities were more of the same, with little or no results. Our economic development director talked about all the great things happening on Clinton Road as though it is a hotbed of economic activity in our city. Again, I would suggest a quick drive down the street at your convenience, and you can form your own opinions. She further went on, spending several minutes rambling, making all of us believe that economic development is alive and well in the city of Brooklyn, and that the city had some major role in making that happen. All this sounds great, but where are the results? Where are the jobs? These are the questions that I've been thinking about, and just a simple question to the mayor, maybe you can bring this to the next meeting. If you can give me some idea, or give us some idea of how many jobs the city's been directly responsible for bringing to the city of Brooklyn in the last 1, 3, or 5 years. I actually requested some financial information from our finance director, and I appreciate your timely response to that. I asked her to provide me the withholding tax amounts in the city of Brooklyn from the years 2006 through 2012. I was not surprised by what I had found. If you look at our total tax collections at the level when we were collecting 2% versus 2.5%, our actual collections in years 2010, 11, and 12 were down $2.5 million. At an average salary of $50,000, this is roughly 2,500 jobs. So we can talk about all the great things that I guess are happening in terms of economic development, but the bottom line is 2,500 jobs roughly have left the city. Now, some of this can be accounted for. Residents have lost their jobs, wages have been decreased or whatnot. But a majority of this is that the employers in our city have either left or reduced their staffing levels, and thus why I've been so adamant about economic development. I'm not sure what the hesitancy is to add to this effort. I'm not advocating at all to replace our economic development director. I'm asking to add resources to that effort. The economic development needs of the city of Brooklyn have changed drastically in the last 4 or 5 years. We've been given a 3-year warning by one of our largest employers that they'd possibly we'd be leaving the city of Brooklyn, and to my knowledge, we really have not done much to act upon that information. So again, I thought the information that I uncovered was somewhat enlightening. And again, 2,500 jobs that we've lost, or $2.5 million in payroll taxes if you normalize it back to the 2%, which I think is a large number. So I'll just continue to wait and see if anything happens on economic development, and that's all I have.
Thank you. Mrs. Colleen Gallagher.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Last year, I was contacted by a resident who recently retired and asked me if chickens were allowed in the city of Brooklyn. As a lifelong resident, she was interested in raising a couple of chickens for fresh eggs. I told her that it was illegal. After doing a little research, I found out through other residents that some of their neighbors were raising chickens and roosters in their backyard. Well, my feathers were ruffled after I approached the former building commissioner and found out that the city was turning a blind eye to this issue. To me, it's unfair to the resident who is trying to follow the law. I requested the chair of the Safety and Environmental Committee to hold a meeting on this problem to get some feedback. After this committee meeting, I asked our law director, Scott Clausen, to draft legislation. At the time, I received a few negative comments, but for the most part, people were very positive. I was waiting on one council person to go over an adjustment. This weekend, I read an article on how urban chickens are helping to build communities. It's been 1 year since Cleveland Heights amended its zoning code to allow residents to keep chickens. It's been 4 years since Cleveland adopted their zoning code. As a city official from Cleveland Heights stated, despite a handful of vocal residents predicting a chicken-induced apocalypse as a result of the legislation, there has been almost zero blowback. The article stated that 70% of Forbes' most desirable cities happen to be chicken-friendly. So I would like our council president to email this legislation to the council members to address at the next meeting. If my colleagues vote this down, then I would request that the mayor contact our animal control officer, Jennifer Turner, to notify these residents that they are violating the law and will be cited for breaking the law. It's time for the city to do the right thing and follow the law, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mrs. Katie Gallagher.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I received a couple calls from residents about the sound barriers from the Ohio Department of Transportation. So I contacted our service director, John Verba, who had spoke to the engineer, Mark Carpenter from ODOT. And I guess they're still in the process of determining whether Brooklyn is eligible. And Mr. Verba, if you hear any more information, if you can update us. Second, I received a complaint about Brockwood Park, about the condition. I was wondering if you could take a look at it and to see if there's anything you can do to clean it up. And thank you, and that concludes my report.
Thank you. Mr. Tansky.
Thank you. I just have one question to Mr. Verba. Maybe you can elaborate on this a little bit. I talked with you earlier about the trash cans when they're put in the front and somebody goes to work and the car pulls up and now blocks the cans and the arm of the machine can't get to the can. Where these warning slips are going, they're being put.
Yes, the driver has been instructed to put the warning sticker actually on the vehicle instead of on the can. Many of the residents put the can out in the morning and then a neighbor comes by and parks directly in front of the can. Common sense is not obviously getting through to some of these people. So the drivers have been instructed to put the tag on the car. We're going to try to move the can so that we can actually pick up the rubbish. But we're definitely going to try to instruct these cars that are parking there that they can't be doing this.
Yeah, because it's going to take a long time for these service workers to keep getting out of the truck and have to pull cans. So hopefully residents will not park in front of those cans so we can get the garbage, especially on garbage day. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy.
I have no report.
Thank you. And I just have a brief report. After our last council meeting on Tuesday, May 28th, we held a work session for 2 items. The first was to review the proposed agreement with the Cleveland Water Department. Under this proposal, the Cleveland Water Department would assume responsibility for our water lines in exchange for revenue sharing for 5 years if a company would leave Cleveland and relocate to Brooklyn. We decided at this time it is not in our best interest. We will revisit this in the future, but we will not be entering into this agreement at this time. The second item was to review the presentation for the breakfast for the businesses, which will be tomorrow morning. Fran took input from council and did revamp the presentation. I would like to thank Fran and Jill for working on this project. On Friday, June 7th, I attended the post-audit conference, which also served as the second quarter meeting for the audit committee. This was not a public meeting, and the information is considered confidential until it is released by the Auditor of State. Once it is released, it is a public record and will be on the auditor's website and the City of Brooklyn's website. But I would just like to make a general comment that it's a very good audit. On Thursday, May 30th, our bond anticipation notes went to market and successfully sold for $1,375,000 with a 0.400 percentage yield. We have a note from our finance director. Please note that the true interest costs will be 0.62%, which is due to various issuance costs. But this is a very good rate that we received. And thank you, Jenny, for your work on that. And that concludes my report. We'll move on to the mayor's report. Mayor Balbier.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. I received a letter from the library outlining all their programs for the summer. They have something for everyone, from youngsters to adults. So if you're interested, stop by the library. On Friday, June 14th is Flag Day. I advise everybody that doesn't usually put out their flag, this is the day to do it. Also, that box we have in the City Hall for collecting of old flags have been working very well. I guess we'd emptied it two or three times already, so it's working out very good. I also attended the high school graduation on June the 2nd. It went very well, and it was a lot better than the year before when it was 90 degrees out, so it was a little more comfortable, and I wish everyone well that graduated. I also was requested by the Kiwanis to give a talk, and I gave a talk there last week. They want to know what was coming in 2013, and I explained the different projects on Ridge Road and Tiedemann 480 and so forth. I was notified by the county executive, Ed Fitzgerald, if I would attend a press conference last week, and I attended it, and he gave out 10 grants, the municipal grants, and Brooklyn received one for $150,000, and that's for upgrading our park and recreation areas, so we're thankful for that. Mrs. Gallagher mentioned about the Planning Commission. A new business is coming into Brooklyn. It's LA Fitness, and if you go on the internet, you'll see this is like at the top of a line for fitness centers. It's going to be 41,000 square feet on the first floor and 4,000 square feet on the mezzanine. They have 250 parking spots, and I believe they said it was going to bring in about 75 jobs, but the place is really nice. It has a lap pool, a basketball court, and they have a lot of personal trainers, so I think they're going to do very well there. And when I met with him a couple months ago, I asked him, do you really need 200 parking spaces? And he says, we need more than that, Mayor, so they're getting 50 more from KeyBank as an overflow. He said on Sundays, it's not uncommon for 200 people to be there at one time, so we'll see, but this is a nice feather in our cap to have it in Brooklyn. Parma Hospital is sponsoring 5K runs during the summer. And if you're into this, I'll give you the list. It says on Sunday, June 30th, at the Brecksville home games, a 5K race and a 1-mile family walk. On Saturday, July 6th, the American Cancer Society, the Parma Area Relay for Life, is a 5-mile run and a 1-mile walk. On Sunday, August 4th, in Parma Heights, they have a 5-mile run and a walk. And also on Saturday, September 14th, at Parma Hospital, they have their 5-mile run and a 1-mile walk also. We also received word, you've probably been reading it in the paper, that they're giving refunds back from the Bureau of Workmen's Comp. In Brooklyn, we received our information. We're going to get $66,980 back. We should get that by the end of the month or in early July. We also met on May 28th with the EPA. It only took 6 months to get our second meeting. And we met with them and with our attorneys from Columbus, and our experts came up to testify. All they wanted was some more information, and they had misread some of the information we gave them. So we straightened it all out, and we'll wait till we hear from them again. But this seems like it's going to go on forever, but that's the way it is. We met with them. I noticed the other day, last Thursday and Friday, there's a new state law that was passed last year that whenever you have your windshield wipers on, you have to have your headlights on. And I bet you about a third of the cars, when I saw with their windshield wipers on, they didn't have their headlights on. So just remember, that's a new state law. I also received a letter today from the National Senior Games. They're going to be held in Cleveland from July 19th through August 1st. There's 10,000 athletes, 50 and over, and they'll be competing in 19 different sports. So they're asking for volunteers. They need volunteers, almost every capacity, timers and referees and so forth. So if you're interested in volunteering, the number to call is 216-443-3197. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
Mrs. Pucci, may I be recognized?
Yes, Mrs. Gallagher.
Mayor, in regards to Mr. DeMarco's comments about economic development, I thought we were going to hold a meeting in the next couple weeks about discussing a marketing person.
I don't know, I'm against the marketing person.
I understand
But
that,
that's up, if the council president calls a meeting, I'll be there.
Yeah, we're going to call us like either a work session or strategic planning to discuss that and a couple other items.
Before council ends?
Yes, hopefully. Mr. Van Kirk is out of town this week. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, next we move on to director's reports. Mr. Verba.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. The Laurel Garden Club of Brooklyn is having their second annual plant sale on Wednesday, June 12th from 4 to 7 p.m. Rain or shine, the sale will take place behind City Hall in the Grand Pavilion. Barb Stepik asked to please bring a tote for your purchases so that you can take your plants home. Also, we have a pre-construction meeting on the Ridge Road construction project tomorrow. I'll have more information at the next council meeting. And again, just a reminder, if you have extra rubbish that does not fit in your container, it must be placed on your tree lawn for a Friday pickup. And you must call the service garage at 216-635-4232 to arrange a pickup. We don't just ride down every street. You must call, they'll arrange for a pickup. And if your garbage day is on Monday and you put it out and it's not picked up, we're going to be working with the police to actually enforce the ordinances for leaving rubbish on your tree lawn. So again, if it doesn't fit in the can, it must be placed on the tree lawn for a pickup on Friday. It cannot remain out there for a few days before Friday. Thank you.
Thank you. Acting Police Chief Knapp.
Thank you, Mrs. Pucci. While council was in executive session, I addressed Mr. Adamski and his Code Red question, but just to, for the record, the next major decision with Code Red is determining how we're going to populate the database. There are several options that are available to us to gather that information, and Chief Milky wants to be directly involved in that decision, so he will be back on the 17th, and I expect an update then. Piggyback on the mayor's comments, the city actually has an ordinance, 33702, lighted lights, and specifically at any time you're using your windshield wipers, you're required to have your headlights on. That's basically the ordinance. Again, as I mentioned, Chief Milky returns on June 17th, so I would just like to take a moment to publicly thank the mayor, the council members, directors, the administrators, their staff, and the men and women of the police department for their patience and their support during this challenging and unique experience. And particularly, I would like to thank Chief Milky for having the confidence in my abilities to act in his stead. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. And you have our thanks for stepping up and taking on those additional responsibilities.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next, we have several requests. The first is a letter from our city engineer, Mr. Doug Courtney. Dear Mayor and members of council, at 12 noon local time on Friday, May 24th, 2013, 2 bids were received and opened for the above referenced project. The engineer's construction cost estimate for this project is $134,010. The bids for all sections of the work are summarized below, and attached is a full tabulation of the bids for your review. Construction King for sections 1 and 1A, $148,730. Section 2, $13,875, for a total bid amount of $162,605, which is 21.3% above the engineer's estimate. The second bidder was A&J Cement Contractors. Sections 1 and 1A, $175,060. Section 2, $11,340, for a total bid amount of $186,400, which is 39% above the engineer's estimate. After reviewing the bids, we have determined that both bids are responsive to the bid requirements and that the lowest and best bid was submitted by Construction King Incorporated. The original design for this project includes a curb turnout widening at the northwest corner of the intersection requiring a 50-square-foot piece of property from the corner property owner, Budget Engine Rebuilders Incorporated. As the city has been unable to come to terms with the property owner for the land, the curb turnout widening has been redesigned, and the entirety of Section 2 will not be needed for the project. Additionally, certain asphalt paving line items in Sections 1 and 1A will not be needed for the project. With the non-performance of Section 2 and the asphalt paving related items in Section 1 and 1A, Construction King's bid is reduced by $27,550 to $135,050, 0.8% above the estimate. And A&J Cement Contractor's bid is reduced by $33,300 to $153,100, 14.4% above the estimate. Included with this correspondence is an amended bid tabulation accounting for the non-performance of the work described above, and the bid results are adjusted as follows. For Construction King, Section 1 is $124,310, Section 1A, $10,740. Total bid amount, $135,050. A&J Cement Contractors, Section 1, $139,945. Section 1A, $13,155, for a total bid amount of $153,100. In accordance with the legal notice and information to bidders in the bidding/contract documents, the city reserves the right to accept the lowest and/or best bid, to reject any and all bids, to award or reject sections separately, or to waive any informalities. In addition, the general conditions of the bidding/contract documents state that estimated quantities are not guaranteed, and the right is reserved to the city to increase or diminish quantities or to omit any one or more items. We have discussed the above with Construction King, and they have no issues with the non-performing Section 2 of the bid and the asphalt-related line items in Sections 1 and 1A. As Construction King has demonstrated the ability to complete projects of this scope and magnitude, and has previously completed a number of similar projects in the city of Brooklyn successfully, and with the adjustments to the contract work as indicated above, we are recommending the award of this contract to Construction King Incorporated for Sections 1 and 1A only in the amount of $135,050. Very truly yours, Doug Courtney. We need a motion to accept or to award the bid to Construction King for Sections 1 and 1A for a total amount of $135,050.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
To approve Sections 1 and 1A, accept the bid, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Dear Mayor, members of council, I'm respectfully requesting that the mayor and council accept a $300 grant award from the Firefighters Charitable Foundation. The grant monies are to be used for any fire and/or EMS equipment. Thank you, and this is from Chief Zemek. We need a
To
motion.
accept the grant award.
Second.
To accept the grant award, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. And for this one, we're going to take three separate motions. Dear Mayor Balbier and council members, I'm requesting council's authorization on the following items as they relate to the Cuyahoga County CDBG playground upgrade. The first one, authorize the park rehab project as submitted by David Williams and Associates Incorporated in the amount of $79,798.24. So we need a motion for that.
Move to authorize.
Second.
To approve, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. The second is to authorize the sport court project as submitted by Connors Sport Court International in the amount of $75,905.75.
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. And the third and final motion, council already authorized that the city pay $3,019. I'm now asking for council to authorize an additional amount of $2,685 for the performance bonds, which were not included in the initial quotes, and this is from Mrs. McGinty, Acting Recreation Manager.
Move to approve.
Second.
To approve, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher,
Yes.
Katie Gallagher,
Yes.
Kevin Tansky,
Yes.
Tom Murphy,
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Members of council, I'm respectfully requesting authorization to advertise for bids for the construction of the west parking lot at the John M. Coyne Recreation Center. Sincerely, John Verba.
Move to advertise for bids.
Second.
To advertise for bids, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Members of council, I respectfully request authorization to advertise for bids for the renovation of the restrooms at the John M. Coyne Recreation Center. John Verba.
Move to advertise for bids.
Second.
To advertise for bids, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. And now we move on to our legislation. The first is Resolution 2013-4, which will be on first reading. A resolution adopting the tax budget for the fiscal year of 2014. The millage on the property taxes will remain at 5.9 mils. This was reduced by council from 6.9 mils back in 2009. And I'm just going to briefly read through the distribution. The general fund, inside millage, 1.3 mils. Bond retirement, 0.30 mils. The general fund, 1 mil, and this is the, from the advisory vote that was taken on the fire station. Street lighting, 0.42 mils. Fireman's pension inside millage, 0.90 mils. Police pension inside millage, 0.70 mils. Police pension per the charter, 0.73 mils. And fireman's pension per the charter, 0.55 mils. So all that adds up to 5.9 mils. So that is on first reading. Next is Resolution 2013-5, to authorize the city to accept the fact finder's recommendations regarding the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Brooklyn, Ohio, and the Ohio Patrolmen's Benevolent Association Patrol and Sergeants Bargaining Unit. We are going to amend this to include the attachment. I would like to say that we have 7 days to either accept, reject, or if we do nothing, it's the same as accepting it. In the fifth whereas, after the word recommendations, I'll make a motion that we amend it to add the language Exhibit A attached. So I need a, to amend it there?
Yeah.
Okay. And in section 1, I'll make a motion to also add Exhibit A attached. And we need a second to that motion.
Second to accept is amended.
Is this motion just to amend?
Just to amend.
Okay. To amend, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Okay, now, we need a, motion to suspend the rules and, adopt this evening as amended. All right, I'll make the motion. Introduced by all, suspend the rules as amended.
I'll second it.
To suspend the rules, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
To adopt as amended, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Okay, next is ordinance 2013-40, and this will be on first reading this evening, authorizing the mayor to amend and expand an agreement with Zashin and Rich Company LPA to provide and conduct additional labor negotiations on behalf of the city of Brooklyn. We initially allotted a sum of $50,000 through the billings in April. We're getting close. We're about $37,000. This ordinance would specify that we would add an additional amount not to exceed $25,000. So that's on first reading. Next is ordinance 2013-41. which is on, we'll be passing by emergency measure this evening, amending Section 1345.01 KNY fee schedule of Chapter 1345, permit fees of the Brooklyn Codified Ordinances. At our last meeting, we increased some of our fees. This is a change to that. How it was initially passed, a window replacement would have called for an additional fee based on a percentage of the total project. So the change is we're going to add window replacement to the section that includes roofs, new or re-roof, so there will only be a flat $30 fee. And then there is a new state requirement that the city now issue a non-residential plan review approval certificate. So we're going to add that in and charge a $50 fee.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
To adopt, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Next is ordinance 2013-42, which is up for emergency passage this evening. An ordinance enacting new section 1527 entitled, quote, "Announcements of the Codified Ordinances of the City of Brooklyn, Ohio." Basically, this would stipulate that in public assemblies with more than 100 attendees, an audible announcement shall be made not more than 10 minutes prior to the start of each program to notify the occupants of the location of exits to be used in the event of a fire or emergency. And there are 2 exemptions, church services and outdoor events.
Introduced by all, suspend the rules.
Second.
To suspend the rules, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
To adopt, Tony DeMarco,
Yes.
Colin Gallagher.
Yes.
Katie Gallagher.
Yes.
Kevin Tansky.
Yes.
Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes. Does the mayor or any other member of council have anything further they'd like to say?
May be recognized.
Yes, Mrs. Gallagher.
I was wondering if somebody, the law director, or you could go over the couple of items in the fact-finding report so the public know what we just passed.
Yes. Scott, do you want to do that?
The fact finder, basically the union and the administration could not come to terms, so they opted to go to fact finding. They mutually selected a fact finder. The main crux of the fact finding report, basically the fact finder issued a report because we could not come to an agreement at the fact finding hearing. The fact finder basically issued a report that in 2013 the unions would receive a 3.2, well, this is for the police union, would receive a 3.25% wage increase. And the next year, in 2014, they would receive a 1.5% wage increase. And the third year, there would be we would go back to negotiations to see if there was a wage increase in the third year. For the city, the union currently this year is paying 6.9% for their health care. The fact finder decided that it would increase next year in 2014 to 10%, and then for 2015 it would be a reopener where we could go back and argue that it should be increased, and they could argue, make their arguments then. The reason they did that is because there's such uncertainty with American Greeting and the federal health care that the fact finder thought we'd be in a better position 2 years from now to address those topics. There was also a proficiency pay that the fact finder awarded, which would give the police, I believe, an extra $800, $850 for members that qualify for those proficiency pays. And I think that is about it. That was the main crux of the fact finder's report. The city did ask for other things, which was rejected, but that was, in a nutshell, what the fact finder decided. With the acceptance of this, I guess the next step would be to approach the other unions and discuss whether we could come to an agreement without going to fact-finding. The reason for the 3.25 increase for the police was that the fire department several years ago received a 3.25 increase that the other unions failed to achieve. So that's why it jumped up the first year to equal what the firefighters have been getting the past several years.
Thank you. Anyone else? We need a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
To adjourn, Tony DeMarco.
Yes.
Colleen Gallagher. Katie Gallagher. Kevin Tansky. Tom Murphy.
Yes.
Kathy Pucci.
Yes.
Andy Don.